Kyle Martinez stood near the large window on the ship's bridge. He watched the stars move past them in beautiful patterns. The human exploration ship, Spirit Adventure, had been flying through deep space for 3 months now. Everything had become normal and quiet. The crew did their jobs every day without any surprises. That peaceful time was about to end. Amy Harrison sat at the communications desk. She was the lieutenant in charge of all messages coming in and going out. Suddenly her face changed. Her eyes grew wide with excitement. She turned to look at Kyle. "Commander, I'm picking up something strange," Amy said. Her voice was shaking a little. Everyone on the bridge stopped what they were doing and looked at her. Kyle walked over to her station. His boots made no sound on the metal floor. "What did you find?" he asked. "It's a distress signal, sir. Very weak, but it's definitely made by someone with technology. The strange thing is the way it's coded. It's not anything we use on Earth. I've never seen this pattern before." Amy's fingers moved quickly across her control panel. She was trying to make the signal stronger and clearer. Lisa Bennett rushed over from her desk. She was the ship's expert on alien languages and communication. She was a small woman with sharp, intelligent eyes that noticed everything. She looked at the signal patterns on Amy's screen. Her face became very focused. "This is amazing," Lisa said quietly. "It's definitely from aliens. If I'm understanding this correctly, it's an automatic distress beacon. It keeps repeating the same message over and over. Can you translate what it says?" Kyle asked. His heart was beating faster now. This was the moment humans had been waiting for. Contact with another intelligent species in the universe. Lisa worked on her tablet computer. Her fingers moved very fast. "Give me a few minutes. The mathematical parts are easy to understand. Math is the same everywhere in the universe. The rest is more difficult, but I think I can figure it out." She kept working. Everyone waited in silence. Then she looked up. Her face had turned pale. "Commander, they're calling for help. They say they're being attacked by something they call the Ravagers. Their colony is dying. They're asking for immediate help from anyone who can hear this message." Kyle turned to Danny Foster, the ship's navigator. "How far away are they?" Danny checked his instruments and did some quick calculations. 12 light years from our current position, sir. If we use maximum slip speed, we can get there in about 4 weeks. Kyle thought carefully about what to do. The rules said that first contact with aliens should be done by special diplomatic ships, not by exploration vessels like theirs. But they were the only human ship in this area of space. Someone out there was dying and asking for help. The decision seemed clear to Kyle, even though it might cause problems with the regulations later. "Send a message back to Earth Command," Kyle said. "Tell them we've received an alien distress call and we're going to respond to it. Amy, send a reply back to them on the same frequency they used. Tell them that help is coming." Greg Sutton was Kyle's first officer. He was the second in command of the ship. He spoke quietly so only Kyle could hear him. "Sir, we're not really built for fighting. We're an exploration ship. If these Ravagers are still there when we arrive, we might not be able to do much." "I know that," Kyle said. "But we have to try. We can't just ignore a call for help. Danny, calculate the fastest route to get there. Everyone else, go to battle stations. I want every system on this ship checked and checked again. If we're going to fight, we need to be as ready as possible." The crew moved quickly to their positions. Everyone knew this was serious. Kyle looked at the star map on the main screen. Humans had been looking up at the stars and wondering if they were alone in the universe for thousands of years. Now they knew the answer. There were other intelligent beings out there. And the first ones they met were in terrible danger. The Spirit Adventures engines began to hum louder. The sound grew stronger as they prepared to jump into slip space. Slip space was how humans traveled faster than light. It was like taking a shortcut through a different dimension. Somewhere far ahead in the darkness between the stars, an unknown species was waiting. They were hoping that someone had heard their desperate cry for help. Kyle was determined to make sure they got that help. "All systems are ready, Commander," Greg reported. Every light on his control panel showed green. The ship was as ready as it could be. "Then let's go meet our new neighbors," Kyle said. "Start the slip drive." The stars outside the window began to stretch and twist. They turned into long lines of light. The ship pushed through the barrier between normal space and the strange quantum world that allowed faster than light travel. It felt like the whole ship was being pulled through something thick and heavy. Then suddenly they were through. The stars looked different now. They were moving through slip space. Behind them, The automatic distress beacon kept sending out its sad message into the empty void of space. It was still calling and calling, hoping someone would hear. Ahead of them, an entire alien civilization was holding its breath. They were hoping against all hope that anyone had heard their cry for help. They had no idea what kind of beings were coming to save them. Kyle sat in his command chair. He thought about what was waiting for them. 4 weeks of travel time. 4 weeks to prepare. 4 weeks for those aliens to survive against whatever these ravagers were. He looked around at his crew. Every single person on the ship had trained for years. They were scientists, explorers, engineers. They weren't soldiers, but they were humans, and humans had never been good at giving up when someone needed help. Amy, keep monitoring that signal, Kyle said. Let me know immediately if anything changes. Lisa, I want you to learn everything you can about their language from that message. The more we can communicate with them, the better. Danny, optimize our route. Every hour we save might be the difference between life and death for those people. The crew got to work. The spirit of venture flew through slipspace, racing toward an unknown world where unknown aliens faced an unknown threat. It was the beginning of something that would change human history forever. Nobody on that ship knew it yet, but they were about to show the entire galaxy what humans were capable of when someone needed help. High Counselor Thessa pressed her 3-fingered hand against the window of the command center. She watched another explosion light up the sky above her city. The planet was called New Haven. It used to be a beautiful paradise. That was before the Ravagers came and started destroying everything. Krell stood beside her. He was her assistant and advisor. His scales used to be bright blue-green, but now they looked dull and gray. The stress and hunger had changed everyone's appearance. Another transport ship was destroyed, he said quietly. That was the last evacuation ship we had. Thessa closed her eyes. She felt sick to her stomach. There had been 30,000 people on that ship. 30,000 souls who would never reach the safety of the underground shelters. The Ravagers were not random in their attacks. They had a plan. They were not looking for slaves or resources. They wanted to kill every living thing on this planet. They wanted the Vareni species to disappear completely. What about the distress beacon? Thessa asked. She already knew what the answer would be, but she had to ask anyway. Still sending messages on all the frequencies we know, Krell replied. No one has answered back. Thessa was not surprised. The Vareni were a peaceful species. They had only recently started traveling to other star systems. They had no powerful friends in the galaxy. They had no strong military to call for help. Their neighbors, the Thalaxians, had been the first ones killed when the Ravagers started attacking this part of space. The Kixari, another nearby species, had simply run away when they heard the Ravagers were coming. Nobody wanted to fight these terrible creatures. It was easier to run away and hope you would not be next on their list. High Counselor, one of the technicians shouted from across the room. We're detecting a new signal. Something is answering our beacon. Thessa's 2 hearts started beating very fast. The Vareni had 2 hearts in their chests. Right now, both of them were pumping hope through her tired body. What? Show me right now. The technician put the signal up on the main screen. It's very basic and hard to read perfectly. But the meaning is clear. Someone is coming to help us. They say they will arrive in about 28 of our days. 28 days. Thessa looked around the command center. The room was damaged from earlier attacks. Some of the equipment was broken. Many of the workers looked exhausted and scared. Would they even survive for 28 more days? The Ravagers were getting closer every day. They were destroying buildings, cutting off food supplies, and killing anyone who tried to escape. But 28 days gave them something they did not have before. It gave them hope. What species sent the answer? Thessa asked. The technician looked confused. That's the strange thing, High Counselor. The signal includes information about what species they are, but it does not match anything in our computer database. They call themselves humans. Humans. Thessa said the word slowly. It was a strange word. The sounds were difficult for Vareni throats to make properly. Are they a warrior species? Are they strong enough to fight the Ravagers? We don't know, High Counselor. We have no information about them at all. They must come from a part of the galaxy that we have never explored or heard about. Krell moved closer to Thessa. He spoke very quietly so only she could hear. Thessa, what if they are worse than the Ravagers? What if we are inviting another dangerous species to our world? What if they come here to hurt us too? Then we will die either way, Thessa said. Her voice was flat and emotionless. At least this way we die with some hope in our hearts instead of just fear. She turned to face the communication station. Send them detailed instructions about how to find us. Tell them everything about what they will face when they arrive. If these humans are really coming to help us, they deserve to know the truth about how dangerous it is here. The technicians began working to put together all the information. While they worked, another explosion shook the building. The floor moved under their feet. Somewhere far away, alarms started making loud warning sounds. The Ravagers were pushing closer to the command center. Time was running out even faster than anyone had thought. Thessa went back to the window. She watched her beautiful world burning. Fires were everywhere. Buildings were falling down. The sky was filled with smoke and the light from explosions. Somewhere out in the enormous darkness of space, these humans were traveling toward New Haven. She did not know what they looked like. She did not know if they were strong or weak, kind or cruel. She only knew they had answered when everyone else had stayed silent. Thessa whispered a prayer to the old gods of her people. Most Vareni had stopped believing in these gods a long time ago. Modern Vareni believed in science and technology, not in ancient myths. But right now, Thessa needed to believe in something bigger than herself. Please, she whispered to those ancient gods, please let these humans be strong enough. Please let them be brave enough. Please let them arrive in time. Another building exploded in the distance. This one was closer than before. The Ravagers were coming. They would reach the command center soon. Thessa knew that once they captured this building, the war would be over. The Vareni government would be destroyed. Any organized resistance would end. The Ravagers would hunt down every last Vareni and kill them all. How long until the Ravagers reach us? Thessa asked Krell. Krell checked the tactical display. His hands were shaking. Maybe 10 days, High Counselor. Maybe less if they push harder. 10 days. The humans said they would arrive in 28 days. That meant the Vareni command center would probably fall before help arrived. Thessa made a decision. Start moving essential personnel and equipment to the underground bunkers. We'll continue operations from there. The Ravagers can destroy our buildings, but they will not destroy our will to survive. The crew began preparing for the evacuation. Thessa took one last look at the burning city through the window. She thought about all the Vareni who had already died. She thought about the children hiding in shelters, scared and hungry. She thought about a species that might soon exist only in the history books of other civilizations. But she also thought about the message that had come from the darkness. Someone had heard them. Someone was coming. These mysterious humans, whoever they were, had not ignored the Vareni's desperate cry for help. That had to mean something. That had to count for something. Let's move, Thessa said. We have 10 days to prepare for the worst and 28 days to hope for the best. Let's make sure we survive long enough to meet these humans face to face. The spirit of venture came out of slip space at the edge of the Vareni star system. Kyle looked at the main screen and immediately knew they had big problems ahead of them. I'm detecting multiple enemy ships, Amy reported. Her voice was tense and worried. I count 15 large vessels. They're arranged in a blockade formation around the fourth planet from the sun. The energy readings are extremely high. These ships have a lot of weapons. That must be New Haven, Lisa said. She was looking at the data they had received from the Vareni broadcasts weeks ago. The Ravagers have them completely surrounded. Nothing can get in or out. Kyle studied the tactical display carefully. The Ravager ships were huge. They were easily 3 times bigger than the Spirit of Venture. Their design looked aggressive and violent. The ships were all sharp angles and weapon platforms. Even one of those ships could probably destroy Kyle's exploration vessel very easily. 15 of them? Fighting 15 of them would be suicide. Sir, we're receiving a transmission, Amy said. It's not from the Ravagers. It's coming from the planet's surface. Can I put it on the main screen, Kyle ordered. The screen flickered and then showed an alien face. The creature looked like a reptile with large, dark eyes. It looked extremely tired. Its scales were dull and lifeless. Its expression showed pain and sadness. But when it saw Kyle, something changed in those alien eyes. A small spark of hope appeared. You came, the alien said. It spoke English with a heavy accent, but Kyle could understand the words. You actually came. I am High Counselor Thessa of the Vareni people. Are you human? Yes, I am, Kyle answered. I'm Commander Kyle Martinez of the human exploration vessel Spirit of Venture. We received your distress call. Thessa's expression changed. She looked disappointed. An exploration vessel. I understand now. Commander Martinez, I am very grateful that you came, but you must leave immediately. The Ravagers will destroy your ship. We sent out a call hoping for a rescue fleet for warrior ships. You cannot fight them alone with just one exploration ship. With respect, High Counselor, we did not come all this way just to turn around and leave. Kyle looked at his crew. He saw determination on every face. They had spent 4 weeks traveling here. They had talked many times about what they might face. Not one single person had ever suggested going back home. We're going to help you get out of this situation. But how is that possible? Thessa asked. She made a helpless gesture with her hands. You have one ship. They have 15 ships. Your vessel looks very small compared to theirs. Size is not always the most important thing in a fight, Greg said from his station. He was Kyle's first officer. Kyle nodded in agreement. High Counselor, we come from a planet called Earth. I don't know what kind of worlds your people evolved on, but Earth is extremely brutal and dangerous. Our gravity is very strong. Our atmosphere contains oxygen, which is corrosive and dangerous to most species in the galaxy. Our weather is violent and unpredictable. Our ecosystem spent billions of years teaching every living thing how to survive against impossible odds. We call ourselves Deathworlders. We spent our entire history learning how to fight and survive. Thessa blinked her large eyes slowly. She looked confused. Deathworlders? I don't understand what that means. You will understand soon, Kyle said. His voice was grim and serious. Amy, open a communication channel to the Ravager fleet. Sir? Amy looked shocked and surprised. Just do it. Open the channel, Kyle repeated. A moment later, a new face appeared on the screen next to Thessa's image. If the Varini looked like reptiles, the Ravager looked like something from a nightmare. It had armor made of chitin like an insect. Its body seemed to be covered in teeth and claws. It had multiple eyes that looked at Kyle with cold, cruel intelligence. Unknown vessel, the Ravager hissed. Its voice sounded like metal scraping on metal. You are trespassing in our hunting ground. Leave now or be destroyed. This is Commander Kyle Martinez of the human vessel Spirit Adventure, Kyle said calmly. He showed no fear in his voice. You have attacked a species that called for help. We are here to provide that help. Leave this star system immediately, or you will face the consequences of your actions. The Ravager's mandibles clicked together. It might have been laughing. One tiny ship makes threats to our entire fleet? You're either very brave or very foolish. We have destroyed dozens of star systems. We have killed millions of beings. What makes you think you can stop us? Kyle smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. Because you have never met humans before. Let me teach you something important. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. Our world has storms that can destroy entire cities. We have predators that hunt in groups and work together. We have diseases that change and adapt faster than we can cure them. We have environments that range from frozen wastelands where nothing should survive, to burning deserts where the heat can kill you in minutes. We learn to make tools. We learn to work as teams. We learn to turn everything around us into a weapon. We conquered our world not because we were the strongest species or the fastest species. We won because we never ever give up. He leaned forward toward the screen. You want to know why you should be afraid of one small ship? Because on this ship there are 53 humans. Every single one of us carries that legacy inside us. We have survived everything our world could throw at us. Do you really think we are afraid of you? The Ravager's multiple eyes became narrow. Big words from someone in a tiny vessel. Show me that these legendary humans can do more than just talk. Gladly, Kyle said. Danny, execute attack pattern Delta 7. Greg, all weapons are free to fire. Amy, make sure the Varini are watching everything. Let's show the galaxy what humans can do when someone needs our help. The Spirit Adventures engines suddenly blazed with bright blue light. The small exploration vessel began accelerating directly toward the Ravager blockade. It was charging straight at certain death. On the surface of New Haven, on screens in command centers and shelters all across the planet, millions of Varini watched. They could not believe what they were seeing. A single human ship was charging headlong into a battle it could not possibly win. They had no idea they were about to witness something that would become a legend told across the entire galaxy for generations to come. They were about to learn what it really meant when humans said they were coming to help. The Spirit Adventure flew toward the Ravager fleet like a falling star. The ship's outer hull began to glow red from the heat. They were skimming through the upper parts of New Haven's atmosphere. The Ravagers had positioned themselves in a blockade formation. They were confident that nothing could break through their line of ships. They had never seen human tactics before. They had no idea what was coming. "First target is locked," Greg called out from the weapons station. "I have a firing solution ready." "Not yet," Kyle said calmly. He was watching the distance counter on his screen tick down. The numbers were getting smaller and smaller. "Wait for my signal." The lead Ravager vessel opened fire. Bright energy beams shot through space toward the approaching human ship. But Danny was already moving. His hands danced across the helm controls with incredible precision. He had spent his whole childhood playing video games that trained reflexes and spatial awareness. The Spirit of Venture twisted and rolled through space. The ship moved in ways that the engineers who built it had probably never imagined it could move. The energy beams missed their target completely. They hit empty space where the ship had been just milliseconds before. "The galaxy thinks in straight lines," Kyle said quietly. "They use predictable tactics. But we grew up dodging asteroids and navigating through solar storms. They're about to learn what real chaos looks like." "Danny, execute the spiral approach pattern." The ship began moving in a corkscrew pattern through the defensive fire. The movement looked random and wild, but it was actually very carefully calculated. It was a flight path designed by a species that had learned to navigate through powerful gravity wells, magnetic storms, and the violent atmospheres of gas giant planets. The Ravagers' targeting computers were designed for organized combat between big capital ships that moved in predictable patterns. Their system simply could not keep up with the human ship's movements. "Range is optimal now," Danny said. "Should I fire now, Commander?" "Fire everything," Kyle confirmed. The Spirit of Venture released all of its weapons at once. Humans had learned about warfare from thousands of years of constant conflict on their dangerous home world. They understood concepts like overwhelming firepower, precision strikes, and exploiting weak points in enemy defenses. The ship's weapons might have been designed for exploration and basic self-defense, but in human hands, they became instruments of devastating destruction. Missiles with adaptive guidance systems shot toward the Ravager vessels. These missiles had been developed to track fast-moving comets in space. Now they tracked enemy ships. Railguns that were designed to punch holes through solid asteroid hulls fired tungsten penetrator rounds at speeds close to the speed of light. The lasers, which were originally made for mining operations on planets with thick atmospheres, cut through the Ravager armor plating like it was made of paper. The first Ravager ship died in just a few seconds. Its shields were overwhelmed by the missile barrage. Its hull was breached in a dozen different places. Secondary explosions rippled through the structure as the missiles found fuel lines and reactor cores. The massive ship began to fall away from the formation. It left a trail of debris and escaping atmosphere behind it. On the surface of New Haven, Thessa watched with her mouth open in shock. "That's impossible," Krell whispered beside her. "One ship. They just destroyed a Ravager capital vessel with one small exploration ship." But the Spirit of Venture was not finished. Kyle had studied every piece of intelligence information the Verini had sent them about the Ravagers. He had looked for patterns in their tactics. He had searched for weaknesses in their formations. The Ravagers were very efficient killers, but they relied on overwhelming force and fear. They had never fought an enemy that refused to be afraid. "Target the second ship's reactor core," Kyle ordered. "Danny, bring us around for another attack pass. Amy, jam all their communications. I want them confused and unable to coordinate with each other." The human crew moved with perfect synchronized precision. They had trained together for years. They had practiced drills for emergencies that might never happen. Now all of that training was paying off. The Spirit of Venture moved through the Ravager formation like a shark swimming among whales. It was too fast to pin down, too aggressive to ignore. Another Ravager ship exploded in a ball of fire and debris. Then another one. The aliens began to break their tight formation. They were trying to get clear shots at the human vessel. But every time they thought they had a good firing solution, the Spirit of Venture was somewhere else. It was hitting them from a completely new angle. "Sir, they're trying to retreat," Amy reported. "I'm reading panic signals on their communication channels." "They're scared. Don't let them escape," Kyle said coldly. The Verini didn't get a chance to run away. Neither do the Ravagers. "Greg, fire all weapons." Danny increased to full attack speed. The battle continued for another 20 minutes. It was not pretty or elegant. It was brutal efficiency combined with controlled fury. Humans did not just know how to fight. They knew how to win. Every instinct that had been sharpened on Earth came to the surface. Every lesson learned from humanity's violent history was being used. They were predators facing other predators, and the humans were simply better at it. When the last Ravager ship finally broke away and fled into slipspace, 8 of the original 15 vessels were nothing but expanding clouds of wreckage. The ships that survived had sustained heavy damage. They would carry the scars of this battle back to whatever dark corner of space they came from. More importantly, they would carry the fear. They would tell others about the humans. The spirit of venture was battered and scorched from the battle, but it was still functioning. The ship took up a stable orbit around New Haven. On the bridge, Kyle let out a long breath that he had not realized he was holding. His hands were shaking slightly. Adrenaline was still rushing through his system. Around him, his crew began to cheer and celebrate. "We're receiving a transmission from the surface," Amy said. She was grinning widely. Tessa appeared on the view screen. Her scales had regained much of their bright color. Her eyes were wide with amazement and disbelief. "Commander Martinez, I have no words that are adequate. You saved us. One ship against their entire fleet, and you actually saved us." "That's what neighbors do for each other," Kyle said simply.
"Now let's discuss getting your people the help and supplies they need to rebuild.
"And maybe later we can talk about what it would mean for Earth and the Verini to become friends and allies." Tessa pressed her 3-fingered hand to her chest. Kyle would learn later that this was a gesture of deep respect among her people. "Commander, the Verini will remember this day forever. This is the day we learned that we were not alone in the universe. This is the day we learned that the humans of Earth are not just warriors. You are saviors." As the crew began damage control procedures and started coordinating relief efforts with the Verini government, none of them realized how much this battle would change everything. The galaxy had just been introduced to humanity in the most dramatic way possible. That introduction had been written in fire, courage, and determination. 3 months had passed since the Battle of New Haven. That was what everyone was calling it now. Kyle found himself in a very different situation than he had ever imagined. The spirit of venture was sitting in a repair dock high above New Haven. Verini engineers were working day and night to fix every scratch and dent on the ship. They had insisted on repairing all the damage. The crew had become famous celebrities across the planet, though they tried to stay professional and humble. Today, Kyle stood in the newly rebuilt Verini Council chamber. This building had been one of many casualties during the Ravager bombardment. Now it was repaired and looked beautiful again. The room was filled with representatives from many different species. They had all heard about the battle and had traveled here to meet the humans. Tessa stood at the center of the large chamber. Her scales were gleaming now with restored health and confidence. The stress and fear were gone from her face. "Honored guests," she began. Her voice carried clearly through the room. 3 months ago, my people were facing complete extinction. We sent out a desperate call for help. We hoped that anyone would hear us. The response we received changed everything we thought we knew about the galaxy and about ourselves." She gestured toward Kyle with her hand. "The humans came. They did not come with a massive fleet. They did not come with overwhelming numbers of ships. They came with courage and skill that completely defied everything we understood about space warfare. Commander Martinez and his crew fought with a ferocity and precision that sent the Ravagers running away in fear. But more importantly, they stayed here with us. They helped us rebuild our cities. They shared their technology and their knowledge with us. Most importantly, they offered us their friendship." A representative from the Kixari species spoke up. The Kixari had a crystalline body that reflected light into beautiful rainbow patterns. "High Counselor, we have all seen the recorded videos of the battle. The human tactics were completely unlike anything in our military databases. But what concerns many of us gathered here is simple. Humans are clearly warriors of exceptional capability and skill. What guarantee do we have that they will not become the next threat to peaceful species? What stops them from becoming worse than the Ravagers?" Kyle stepped forward before Tessa could respond to the question. "That's a completely fair question," he said. "Let me tell you the truth about Earth and about humanity. Yes, we come from an extremely harsh world. Yes, we learned to fight because everything on our planet was constantly trying to kill us. But we also learned something else that is equally important. We learned that true survival means cooperation. We learned that real strength means protecting those who cannot protect themselves. We learned that being able to fight does not mean you should always choose to fight." He looked around at all the assembled aliens. There were so many different shapes and colors and types of beings. Humanity spent most of its long history fighting against itself. We almost destroyed our entire species several times through terrible wars, but eventually we learned from our mistakes. We grew wiser. We built a unified world government, not through military conquest, but through democratic choice. We reached for the stars not because we wanted to dominate others, but because we wanted to explore and discover. We came to this star system not because we wanted glory or rewards, but because people desperately needed help. A Thalaxian representative spoke next. The Thalaxians were tall and insectoid with compound eyes that saw in many different wavelengths. It clicked its mandibles thoughtfully. Your words are comforting and reassuring, Commander, but words are easy to say. The Ravagers also spoke of peace and cooperation when they first arrived in our region of space. Actions matter much more than words. I completely agree, Kyle said. So let me propose something concrete. Earth wants to join the galactic community. We do not want to join as conquerors or overlords. We want to join as equal partners. We have many things to offer you. Our technology was developed under the harsh conditions of our dangerous world, so it might prove useful to others. Our experience in combat could help protect other species from threats like the Ravagers. Our ships could patrol important shipping lanes. We could respond quickly to emergencies. We could provide relief supplies to disaster zones. He paused to let his words sink in. But we also have many things we need to learn from you. We want to learn about your cultures and your histories. We want to understand your technologies and scientific discoveries. The galaxy is absolutely vast and full of wonders that we have only dreamed about in our imaginations. We want to be part of that amazing universe. We do not want to rule it. We want to help protect it and help it thrive and grow. Lisa, who had been quietly observing from the side of the room, spoke up. If I may add something to what the commander said. Kyle nodded at her to continue. I have spent the last 3 months carefully studying Varini culture. I have also begun to learn about the other cultures represented here today. What really strikes me is how much we all have in common despite our very different origins and appearances. We all value our families. We all create various forms of art. We all tell stories to our children. We all fear the darkness and reach for the light. The fact that we look different from each other, the fact that we evolved under different suns in different parts of the galaxy, does not change the fundamental things that make us all people. Thessa continued speaking. The humans have proposed something that is completely unprecedented in galactic history. They want to create a mutual defense pact, but it is much more than just that. They propose a cultural exchange program where we can learn from each other. They propose scientific collaboration to advance all our knowledge. They propose a genuine alliance between our peoples based on respect and equality. The Varini Council has already voted unanimously to accept this proposal. We are formally asking all of you to seriously consider joining us in this new alliance. The chamber immediately erupted in discussion and debate. Kyle could see uncertainty on many alien faces, but he could also see hope. The galaxy had been badly fractured for a long time. Each species had been looking out only for itself. The Ravagers had proven clearly that isolation was not the same as safety. But actually working together as allies? That was something completely new and untested. Danny had been invited to attend the meeting as part of the human delegation. He leaned over to whisper quietly to Kyle. Do you think they'll actually agree to this, sir? I honestly don't know, Kyle admitted in a low voice. But we had to try to propose it. That's what humans do. We try to do the right thing even when the odds are stacked against us. The Kikshari representative spoke again. Its crystalline voice made a chiming sound as it spoke. Commander Martinez, you speak of protection and partnership. If we agree to join this alliance, will Earth truly commit to defending all member species? Will you face dangerous threats the same way you faced the Ravagers at New Haven? Kyle met the alien's multifaceted gaze directly and honestly. If you call for help, we will come. That is the solemn promise that humanity is willing to make to you. We will not always win every battle. We are not invincible or perfect. But we will show up when you need us, and we will fight alongside you with absolutely everything we have. The Thalaxian representative stepped forward. My people were nearly completely destroyed by the Ravagers. We chose to flee rather than fight because we saw no hope of victory. But you humans showed us that hope can exist even in the darkest situations. The Thalaxian Collective formally announces that we will join this alliance. One by one, other species began to add their voices to the agreement. Not all of them chose to join. Some representatives left the chamber. still too suspicious or too proud to join an alliance with others, but more species stayed than left. As the long day continued, the foundation of something truly unprecedented began to take solid shape. By the evening, 7 different species had officially signed what they were calling the Accord of New Haven. It was not a perfect document. There would definitely be disputes and disagreements in the future. There would be cultural misunderstandings and difficult negotiations. But it was an important start. It was a beginning. Later that evening, after the long day of negotiations and speeches, Kyle stood alone on an observation platform. He was looking out at the stars through the transparent wall. The view was breathtaking. Thessa came to join him. Her scales caught the soft light from New Haven's 3 moons and reflected it in beautiful patterns. "What are you thinking about, Commander?" she asked gently. "I'm thinking about how strange and unpredictable life can be," Kyle said. "We came out here into deep space looking for any signs of alien life. We spent years searching. We never imagined in our wildest dreams that we would find it like this. We never thought we would make real friends with another species. We never expected that we would help build something that might actually change the entire galaxy forever." "Your people call Earth a death world," Thessa said thoughtfully. "I have watched the recorded videos from your planet that you shared with us. I have seen the massive storms that destroy entire regions. I have seen the dangerous predators that hunt in coordinated packs. I have seen the terrible violence that exists in your nature. It honestly terrifies most species who learn about it. But I think I finally understand now why Earth made you what you are. You learned to survive by working together as groups. You learned to never give up no matter how bad things became. You learned to protect each other against impossible odds." She looked at him with those large, expressive dark eyes. The galaxy desperately needed that lesson. We needed someone to show us that we do not have to face the darkness and danger alone. "Thank you, Kyle Martinez. Thank you for hearing our call when no one else would listen." Kyle smiled warmly at her. "That's what good neighbors do for each other, remember? Besides, we humans are the ones who should be grateful to you. You gave us something incredibly precious that we have been searching for ever since we first looked up at the stars, thousands of years ago. You gave us a real place in this vast universe. You gave us a purpose beyond just exploring our own little solar system. Most importantly, you gave us friends." In the distance below them, they could see many other ships arriving at the orbital station. There were more human ships coming from Earth to join the spirit of venture. There were large Verini construction vessels preparing to build a brand new space station. This new station would serve as the official headquarters for the Accord of New Haven. There were also ships arriving from the other member species. They were bringing diplomats, scientists, engineers, and teachers. The galaxy was beginning to change in fundamental ways. An alliance was forming that would eventually grow to include dozens of different species. New trade routes would open up between worlds. Technology and scientific knowledge would be freely shared between cultures. Different civilizations would mix together and learn from each other in ways that had never happened before. And at the heart of it all was a very simple idea. When someone calls out for help, you answer that call. When someone needs protection from danger, you provide it. When someone reaches out their hand in friendship, you reach back. These were not revolutionary or complicated concepts. They were actually the most basic principles that any civilization worth respecting should naturally embrace. But somehow it had taken humanity to remind the rest of the galaxy about these simple truths. The Deathworlders from the harsh and dangerous planet called Earth had taught everyone an important lesson. "Come on," Kyle said to Thessa. "We have a lot of important work ahead of us. We have a whole galaxy full of new friends to introduce ourselves to properly." As they walked together back into the busy station, the stars continued to shine brightly overhead. But they did not seem quite so cold and lonely anymore. Humanity had finally found its proper place among those ancient lights, and the universe would never be quite the same again. Word of the Battle of New Haven spread quickly through the galactic communication networks. Other species who had never heard of humans before suddenly became very interested. Some were inspired by the story of courage and sacrifice. They saw hope that maybe the galaxy could become a safer place. Other species were frightened by tales of the fierce Deathworlders. They worried about what humans might do if they ever became angry or hostile, but everyone agreed on one fundamental fact. When humans promised they were coming to help, they absolutely meant it. They would show up. They would fight. They would not abandon you in your darkest hour. Back on Earth, the news of first contact with alien species caused massive celebrations in every city. People danced in the streets. They waved flags. They cried tears of joy. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Better yet, their first action had been to help someone in desperate need. Earth had introduced itself to the galaxy not as conquerors but as protectors and friends. The human government immediately began preparing more ships to send to New Haven. They were not warships. They were carrying medical supplies, food, construction materials, and volunteers who wanted to help rebuild the damaged Varini cities. Humanity was showing through concrete actions that their words about friendship and cooperation were genuine and sincere. Kyle received a message from Earth Command. He read it alone in his quarters on the Spirit of Venture. The message thanked him for his service and his bravery, but more importantly, it told him that he was being promoted. He was no longer just the commander of a single exploration vessel. He was being appointed as Earth's first official ambassador to the galactic community. His mission was to help build and strengthen the new alliance. Kyle looked around his small quarters. He thought about his crew. Amy, who had first detected the alien distress signal, Lisa, who had translated their desperate call for help, Danny, who had flown the ship through impossible combat maneuvers, Greg, who had coordinated their weapons with deadly precision. Every single member of the crew had played a vital role. They had all become heroes whether they wanted that title or not. He walked to the window and looked down at New Haven. The planet was still showing scars from the Ravager attacks, but it was healing. Lights were coming back on in the cities. Construction crews were working around the clock. Children were playing in the streets again. Life was returning to normal, or at least to a new kind of normal. Kyle thought about the path that had led him here. He had joined the space program because he wanted to explore. He had dreamed of discovering new worlds and seeing things no human had ever seen before. He had gotten all of that and so much more. He had found a purpose larger than himself. He had found a cause worth fighting for. The future stretched ahead, full of unknowns and possibilities. There would be more challenges. The Ravagers were still out there somewhere, probably plotting revenge. There would be other threats that nobody had even imagined yet. There would be misunderstandings between species and diplomatic incidents and all the complicated problems that came with building something new. But Kyle was not worried. Humanity had survived everything their harsh homeworld had thrown at them. They had learned to adapt, to overcome, to never surrender. Those same qualities would serve them well as they ventured further into the galactic community. More importantly, they would not be facing those challenges alone anymore. They had allies now. They had friends who would stand beside them. The Varini would remember what humanity had done for them. The other species in the Accord would honor their commitments. Together, they would build something beautiful and lasting. Kyle smiled to himself. The journey that had started with a simple distress call had led to something absolutely extraordinary. Humanity had answered that call and changed the galaxy forever. They had shown everyone what it meant to be a good neighbor, a loyal friend, and a fierce protector. The stars had never seemed brighter or more welcoming. Humanity had finally come home to its place among them, and the adventure was only just beginning.